Hi guys, this is Dr. Gribbins. I'm at home, and as a microscopist and histologist, it's my job to kind of introduce you to microscopes. So um, some of you are working at home, and some of you are working at UND or coming into UND and actually checking in and working in the lab. For those of you that are working at home, you're going to be working with this little setup over here, right? You should have gotten a duo scope starting kit. It's a 2-in-1 microscope. Actually, it's a pretty interesting little device. If I pick it up, it's actually quite cute, as you can see, and has several objectives. So it's got a small objective here, a 4x objective, a kind of intermediate size objective, a 10x objective, and it has a 40x objective. The cool thing about this little microscope is that it has two light sources. It has a bottom light source and an upper light source. And this source on top that is pointing down towards this structure here that is in the middle of the scope, which is called the stage, can be used as a dissecting scope. So you can actually view objects, 3D objects, using the 4x and the 10x. Now, the longer 40x objective you can't use to look at smaller things because the working distance, the distance between the tip of the objective and the stage, is quite small. But the 4 and 10x you can use very nicely to look at objects, as you'll see. The first thing you're going to have to do with this, though, is install the batteries. All right, and on the bottom, as you can see, we have a compartment for the batteries. And all you're going to need here is a Phillips screwdriver, right? And basically what we're going to do is just, we'll remove the screw and add the batteries, right? So I'll do that real quick. You need 3 AA batteries, okay, that are going to go in this compartment. So I'll put those batteries in really quickly so I can at least show you how this little guy works. So once you get the batteries in, you just replace our clip on the bottom and then add our screw back. Pretty easy to do. So I did that real quick. You're going to want to note before you actually use your little microscope is that the scope itself, this, what we call the tube, the body tube, actually comes with a cover. So you can't see anything with that cover on, right? Inside of the microscope box is the actual eyepiece, or what we call the eyepiece objective. And so we need to take that out and replace these two. So here is the eyepiece. As you can see, it's a 10x magnification on this eyepiece objective. So it's going to help magnify our image. Talk about magnification in a few minutes when I get to the bigger scope. But we need to remove the cover here of our little scope so that you can actually see inside. You can see inside there. See, there's a mirror that reflects the image up to our eyepiece. And we're going to actually put the eyepiece in to replace that, like so. Right, and now you are able to look into the scope. There is a power source on this side, right? That'll turn on either the top light, as you can see, or if you flip it the other side, it's going to turn on the bottom light, as you can see right here, right? And so if you want to look at something like a fly or an insect, which you can go out and get in your yard, or a flower, a dandelion, seeds, something like that, what you can do is basically take the scope, and what I would recommend that you do, and I think they recommend this in your in the little directions that come with it, is use an index card and stick it actually under the stage clips here that hold the microscope slide. And then you can take something like, for example, some seeds here, which I actually have. All right, so these are milkweed seeds. And you can actually place them underneath there so that you can see them, right? So you can see the milkweed seeds here. And that'll allow you to view them under 4X, for example. Or if you have a little insect, I went out and I collected a little, there's a little bug, little insect that was sitting outside of my my screen door, and it's a little weevil, I think I collected. And, you can look at this. It's dead. It was dead. You could put that underneath the scope and take pictures of those or draw them, right? And that's what you're going to do basically in your microscope kit here. So all you have to do is follow the directions on the PDF. I'm just kind of introducing you to this little scope, right? If you're at home. Obviously, put it back to middle to turn the light off. There are also some microscope slides that come with your kits if you got it at home. So there are several prepared slides in here you can use. Here's a really nice one of a tick, for example, that you could use to take pictures of. And also, with your microscope came a whole large kit of materials that you can use. And I will pull these out in a second so that you can kind of see what's all in there. But I mean, all right, guys, so I've taken everything out of the kit so that you can kind of get a better idea of what you will need for this lab. As I mentioned, you'll need maybe an index card or a piece of white thin cardboard. And then these are all of the pieces that actually come in your kit. All right, so this little black thing I'd be really careful with, but it's got a razor blade in it, and it's a really neat little microtome, believe it or not. So for example, if you got a really small fleshy plant stem, like a dandelion stem, or maybe even a small non-woody plant stem, or even a leaf, you could put that in those grooves, those white grooves there, and then this turns, and you could actually section very thin sections of, for example, a stem, and put it on the cardboard or on a microscope slide, and then look at it under 4X or 10X. You also have some within that little kit that comes with the microscope, you have some blank slides, some clean microscope slides, and then you have, looks like wool, a wool piece here that's been stained, and onion bulb, and a couple other prepared slides that go along with the prepared slides that also came with your kit here for the introduction to microscopy lab. You have some specimen vials, and I used one of them and went out and collected some, you have a couple specimen vials. I used one to fill up and collect some pond water, as you can see right here. So I got some pond water, and I collected the pond water with just my little disposable Pasteur pipette here, that I can actually use that water to put on a slide and then make a wet mount. There's also brine shrimp and yeast here that I would just leave alone since we've already kind of played with the brine shrimp. And there are also cover slips and even forceps. And then little specimen holders. So you can see here I've actually placed my little insect in there that I captured earlier or found earlier in there to hold for right now. And I have some seeds to look at. So you're going to want to go out and collect some things: pond water, leaves, flowers, insects, seeds, something that you can look at under the microscope. And you're going to want to have some, for example, pond water, so that you can look at something under the 40X, and you want to have something that you can look at that's bigger three-dimensionally if you're at home using your little microscope, right? But I mean, basically, they have a couple disposable pipettes, a couple containers. So you could actually go out and collect, for example, pond water, which is what I would do, or creek water if you know there's a creek somewhere, or even a puddle of water if it's out there somewhere, that you could actually collect some water that's been sitting a while. And there'll be some algae, protozoans, and some other neat little critters in there, maybe some crustaceans that might look similar to, for example, a brine shrimp that you guys saw. So, or copepods, or something that's really, interesting. And And so you'll use these. And inside of this, you got some blank slides, which are in the larger case, and some other equipment that'll allow you to make wet mounts. Right? And I'll kind of show you how to make a wet mount here in a few minutes. And so this little setup here is what we're going to utilize along with the microscope that you got in your kits at home in order to just perform the lab. And the lab's pretty easy. What the lab is just simply a set of activities that will allow you to just get some practice with the microscope. Now, of course, the microscopes at the university are much larger. They're better scopes. And so I'm going to introduce you to both of these. And we're going to talk about the microscope parts real quick, and then a little bit about the function of the microscope and kind of how it works. I don't want to make it too detailed, too long. I'm kind of a microscope nerd, so I don't want to bore you. But I will introduce you to the two major types of microscopes that we'll use here at the university, particularly as you move up and go into your other biology classes.